So it's something bigger than this is just your job and this is your payment. This is this customer's wedding day, or this is this customer's 50th birthday, or this is this big corporate event to celebrate this big achievement.
Yeah.
And you're a key part of that. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Founder Stories. So excited for today. I've got an amazing guest and friend, Mr. Harvir Sahota. He's also the managing director of Mahirs, which is one of the UK's leading catering companies. I'm sure you might have a different description of that and what you really do in business, but we'll get into that in a minute. So
Sure.
Today we're going to be digging into Harvir's story, how he got started as an entrepreneur, running one of, like I said, it's for me, I eat the food myself. It's absolutely delicious. I won't go anywhere else. If we have to have Indian food and we've got, more than a certain amount of guests, then we always go to Mahir's. We've been working together for a while now, but we never really sat down to chat like this. So I'm super excited to hear more about your journey and actually what your goals are moving forward. We spoke about that a little bit in the kitchen when we had some coffee and got some caffeine. But I know, guys, there'll be so much gold in today's episode. I'm not sure exactly where we'll go. I think we'll probably veer off course a little bit because there's so much that we can talk about. I'll try and keep us on track as much as possible. But what I do know for sure is that you guys as viewers or listeners will get practical advice as well as inspiration to go back and take back to your business. And that's what Founder Stories is all about, being able to take things from this, go back, implement them and grow your own businesses. So that being said, let's get started. Tell me who you are for the listeners that aren't familiar with you, and what does Mahirs do? And then we'll go from there.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Simon. As you said, Harvir Sahota, Managing Director of Mahirs Experience. We're a catering and event management company that specializes in authentic Punjabi cuisine. Primarily, we cover weddings and other private occasions. We work nationwide. Most of the events that we do are in stately homes, English heritage venues, sporting stadia, banqueting suites and hotels. And we specialize in, like I said, authentic Punjabi cuisine.
And you're a Liverpool fan, right? So is your ultimate dream to cater for Liverpool Football Club?
Well, I've never really mixed business and pleasure together, but for my sins, especially after the season that we're having, I'm a Liverpool fan. Always have been since the heydays. We've had some pretty good days recently. But
what's the food? What's the food like? More importantly, at Liverpool, do they have Indian food there?
In their suites, the food is at best average. I'll be completely honest with you.
Okay, maybe there's an opportunity there. At Villa, and I'm a Villa fan for those of you. I don't think I've mentioned that on the podcast yet. We recently got a local caterer that's come in and started doing almost an improved version of KFC. Not Indian, but fried chicken. But it's so good.
Brilliant.
And it just sells out. It literally sells out within 3 minutes of halftime. So they've obviously got their, processes. We can get into that. The process is wrong. Anyway, this is where we start veering off course from the questions that I shared with you. Okay. Tell me what happened when you were a kid. Mahirs is a family business, right? How long has it been running?
Yeah, so I actually founded the company in 2005.
Okay.
It was on the back of another family business, Quality Sweet Centre. It was an Indian delicatessen based on the famous Surrey Road in Handsworth in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I sort of came into the family business. It started off as a bit of a weekend part-time job. But I quickly realised that, we started gathering a bit of a cult following.
Yeah.
The quality of the cuisine was, getting renowned, and people started asking for kind of their events to be catered for.
So that was just a natural progression, that it was a retail store, but people were asking, hey, the food's really great. Could you come and do this event? Is that kind of what started?
Yeah, very, very, very organic. We grew very organically. I think it was kind of the start of the kind of the big fat Asian wedding events that we have now.
Yeah.
So it was the start where people started engaging in having a lot of different suppliers, having good suppliers at their events and going for kind of quality events and big lavish weddings.
Yeah.
So I think we probably came into the market, at the right time. But yeah, so
how old were you at that point when you started working in that shop, helping out your parents, presumably, who were in that?
Yeah. So initially it was about 13 years old when I came into the business on a weekend part-time basis. But I was drafted in after graduating from university.
Okay.
Started helping the family business a lot more than a part-time basis.
Yeah. What did you do at university?
I did business information systems, so it's a combination of business and computer science.
And why did you not go into a job? Presumably, I don't know, but for me, so my dad was an entrepreneur. He had a big leather goods company in the Midlands. Then for a variety of family reasons, shut that down and just started up being a photographer, but always worked for himself.
Yeah.
But his goal for me was the opposite. He pushed me into, getting a stable 9-to-5 job. Were your parents encouraging you to come and work in the business, or were they saying, go and use your degree and get a normal job?
I'm going to be really frank with you. Everyone has a story, right? We actually had a good business, but unfortunately, some of the family members that were in the business, they ran up kind of a lot of, debts, personal debts.
Yeah.
And it was almost kind of, I drafted in to try and help the family business. The one thing that we were good at was obviously providing, really delicious cuisine and smashing events out of the park.
Yeah.
But what was being kind of on the side, the family burden and the debts that some of the founders, original founders had sort of brought upon us, we had to kind of manage that.
Yeah.
So I came into the business, to be fair, more of it as a need to stabilize the business.
As a necessity to keep it from failing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it was only supposed to be kind of a temporary thing.
Yeah.
But I came in and I just never left, so it's just...
You enjoyed that entrepreneur life?
Yeah, you could say that. Obviously, we had challenges, as do, most businesses. But I think some of the challenges we had were kind of, made by ourselves, so to speak. So, but yeah, we enjoyed what we were doing. Loved the fact that the product was quite sought after. The fulfillment you get when you put a smile on people's faces in terms of, undertaking their events and, getting rave reviews, creating raving fans. I thought it was brilliant.
Well, that's quite a good link to Tony Robbins, actually. And when we first met and sat down, when I came to see you about potentially bringing GrowFactor on as your accountancy firm, we had a commonality in that we'd both been to Tony Robbins events.
100%. I think I'd like to think that I saw you out, really. I think when I just going back and reflecting on this, I think it was at the Belfry in St Coldfield. There's a networking event.
Yeah, that's right. You met who was our business development manager at that time, who's also my auntie.
Yeah, Debbie.
Yeah, and she said, you guys have got to meet, I think, at that time as well. Or maybe I was there as well.
I think you were.
We said hi. But
we said hi.
Proper conversation.
Yeah, I think I just come off the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses course.
That's right, which you have to apply for and qualify for. Which
Correct,
in itself is a really great nod to the success of Mahir's versus what it was. When
I think I take obviously kind of the qualifications and the learning, very seriously. And after the course, it became apparent that I was looking for more of a modern style accountancy company.
Yeah.
I think back then those platforms of QuickBooks and Xero had just kind of started out. Yeah. And from the course, I learned that obviously knowing your numbers and having real-time figures was very important. So I was actually looking for an accountancy firm that had grips with QuickBooks and Xero.
Yeah.
And then I think at the networking event, Debbie, yourself, that's the kind of stuff that you got specialised in.
Yeah, and it's not just like you can pick a good accountant. There are other good accountants other than GrowFactor, but I think it's important as a business owner, you pick an accountant that you can build a relationship with that actually really cares about your business, is invested in your business.
Yeah, I totally agree.
On a personal level, and even if they're not, I don't do any of the delivery for your work, my team does, but I know that they also care. But on the Tony Robbins thing, actually, there's a couple of things there. One bit of advice, I think, then for listeners or viewers is always be developing yourself. You did a business degree, and that could have been that, but you actually then went and did, which Tony Robbins events have you done?
So I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, which is not the Tony Robbins thing, but then the UPW, a couple of those UPW events.
Yeah.
Few more. I sent a couple of my staff members to it, my key guys.
Unleash the Power Within, Unleash the Power Within, and all of those things.
That's it, I also went on to Business Mastery.
Which is a full-time 5-day event just on mastering those 7. He talks about 7 forces of business, right? One of which is financial and legal, but then he goes through, I don't know what the others are actually.
You're going to be testing me now, but
marketing, sales. But you mentioned creating raving fans. That's Tony's sort of terminology about if you focus on your customers, which is what you've said you did originally, and I guess what your parents did. Just focus on the product.
I think in the early days, and it's probably focusing on the client so much that some of the products that we used to sell to clients were actually probably costing us, more than what we were charging them for.
Right,
so, but obviously I came into the business and started saying, well, actually, look, this is all great, but it's great that we want to give people the best service, the best food. But we've got to look at our numbers, right? Because obviously we're not making any money, or we're losing money, or, we're kind of all over the place, and had to make, our kind of significant other, shall we say, realize that if you want to be around, continue to do this for the long term, we've got to get grips with our numbers.
And then that comes out of, if you've got online accounting, if you've got real-time information, you can look at your margins, right?
Yep.
And then you can understand, okay, well, either we have to drive the cost of goods down, or we have to reprice.
Yeah.
So was it a conscious decision for you to position, because I see Mahirs, and the people that I speak to see Mahirs as it's a premium service.
Yeah.
It's known as, I know you're a nationwide company, but if we look at the Midlands or the middle of England as an area, Mahirs is known as, if you have the budget and you want the best of the best, then you go to Mahirs. Was that a conscious decision to position your brand up there and remove yourself from competing with every other caterer?
100%. And that was actually, credit to, my father and my uncle. It was always about the quality.
Yeah.
The quality of the food, right down from the ingredients that we use, the staff that we, were hired to deliver.
And your parents do cooking, right? I remember when we first started working together and you gave me a tour. And your mum, I think, was around this massive pot, like twice the size of me, doing the actual stirring. Like, I'm not making this up. They're actually in the business.
Mate, you can come down today and it's still the same. Nothing beats mum's cooking, right?
Yeah.
So as the old adage goes. But look, I think it's very, very important, because obviously we've got generations of family members who've got great experience. They're passing down their artisan skills now.
Yeah.
So we have got chefs now from around the world, from all backgrounds, and it's, the parents are still there as part of the business, but it's more about quality control, giving their kind of experience, knowledge, artisan skills, passing it down. There is wheels in motion for us to actually create our own kind of culinary catering academy going forward.
Wow. Yeah.
To try and process that a lot more. So,
and pass down the knowledge from one generation to another.
Yeah.
So just getting back on track, in terms of those first few years when you came in, what were the first things that you did to that business to transition it from a family business that's a retail business into Mahir's? Obviously, you must have thought about branding, marketing, sales, these things. If you remember, like, how did you even go about that? Did you sit down and write a business plan? Did you use some of the stuff you learned at Goldman's or on Business Mastery? Like, what were the simplified kind of first steps that you took? Yeah,
so coming out of university and going on to some of these courses, later on, I think it was bringing it back down to basics and trying to structure things. I think the first thing was getting, I know it sounds really basic, but getting a PC, a computer at that time, and systemizing kind of, the processes.
So most of it was sort of paper.
It's all paper-based, and there's a lot of repetition, Things have been, written down on pieces of paper. Quotes have been done on the back of a, on a fact packet.
Yeah,
or in
so
that case,
you
on the back
can't
of
check, for example, your sales conversion because, well, I mean, you could, but it probably wasn't being checked because you've got a number of quotes going out on paper.
Yeah.
The ones that get accepted go into the accepted pile, but there's no one tracking, okay, well, we send 10 quotes to get 3 sales.
Yeah.
And then now how do we improve that? None of that stuff was getting tracked.
None of that stuff was getting done or tracked. And obviously then there's version control issues. Obviously, when the orders are confirmed, they need to go into different areas, whether it's in the kitchens to be produced, and obviously when there's changes. So yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty basic now because obviously everything is kind of CRM and, all process driven. But yeah, in the early days, it was just trying to bring IT infrastructure into our family business and saying, look, there's easier ways of doing these things.
And you had that background from university, right? So
yeah.
What's really interesting to me though is if you sat down at the start, you probably would have been able to brain dump. So brain dumping is just getting a pen, getting a piece of paper and writing down everything you needed to do. You could have probably kept writing for 2 days. How do you take those actions into, which is something I think about all the time, how do you work on the right things first in the right order for the right amount of time? Because you don't need to get everything perfect. So how do you, I'm not asking this very well, but how do you structure your time in those first few years? And how do you make sure that when you're working on the business, you're doing the right things?
Again, I'm going to be really frank and honest with you. In the first few years, I think we were a little bit, all over the place, and it was definitely firefighting,
hustling as well. Just doing
we were, obviously the team was small, the premises were small, and 1 minute you jump in from facing customers and doing sales, then going to venues and having meetings, and then loading vans on the weekend, washing pots in the kitchens. And to be fair, I think looking back at it now, would I have done things differently? Yes and no. I think it seemed like looking back now, it's like I had an apprenticeship in my own business. I did everything from sales and marketing and production, going to events, managing events, pitching, going to presentations, networking. But it's put me in good stead now because obviously when you're now CEO and you're looking after the business and you've got people working for you, you sort of can relate to all the...
And you know how it should be done. You can hire the right people to come in and say, well, actually, even the way you're doing it can be improved.
100%.
Kind of like is it Secret Billionaire or Secret Millionaire, where they go into businesses and do everything. So would you advise anyone that's starting their business, or maybe someone's got a van at the moment? I know there's a guy in the Midlands that makes pizzas. He takes his van and he goes and makes pizzas and goes up outside gyms, and you've got these pop-up restaurants and things like that. So if someone's listening to this and they've got a small restaurant, but they actually want to start taking the steps to move on the journey that you've been on, which is to get to having a nationwide catering company with various different revenue streams that we'll talk about, would you advise them that it's fine at the start to do everything and to hustle and to wake up and just write down the most important things that come to your mind and just get on with them rather than spending all your time up there?
Yeah, 100%. I think so. I think definitely it's good to know all the nooks and crannies of your business and obviously experience it for yourself. I think there's only so much you can learn from other businesses, read, obviously be taught on business courses. I think you've got to live and breathe it. And to do that is to, and it's a good analogy that you made to that Secret Millionaire. There were times when, I'm out there serving tables and nobody knew that. Obviously,
that's funny. So if they've got an issue, they're going to be telling you. They don't really know. They're telling the CEO of the company.
No. I mean, to be fair, we did do an event where we actually reversed roles. So we had all the management team waiting on tables.
Oh wow! Okay.
I've still probably got the clip and the video and of this event. I actually wore a GoPro camera. On my waiter's uniform. And I was serving tables. And getting feedback, listening to
getting their reaction.
It was a charity function. And we did unveil afterwards. We were on stage and unveiled. Actually, today your service team was actually the CEO, the FD,
head of marketing,
head of sales, and it was actually the service staff that were in the kitchens plating up the food. So we had a role reversal. So I think it was great. It was great for team building. It's great for getting real customer feedback and understanding kind of where there could be issues
Yeah.
in your company. So, 100%, I think.
Yeah, because that's fast forwarding a bit, but like my role is to create content, have these conversations, do business planning, which I guess is very similar to your role now, but also to make sure that the clients are happy. And the only way you can really do that is to talk to them.
Yeah, I think even now, like I'm going to an event on Saturday. I don't need to be there.
Yeah.
But then, I'm spending time in the morning with the family. I'm popping into an event for a couple of hours. It's at the Hilton Coventry.
Yeah.
The next day, I got my me time where I'm, going to Anfield to watch the game against Tottenham. But I think it's nice to kind of duck and dive into different aspects of business, and on a weekly basis, just to get an understanding of what's still working, what still needs anything that needs to be changed, and it's great for morale as well for staff to see that we're still ready to roll up our sleeves and get.
And you care about the customers, but also you care about your team.
Yeah, hand in hand, both. We're only as good as our mantra is we're only as good as our last job.
Yeah.
But 100% from a team point of view, we wouldn't be where we are without the people. Obviously, it's the service business. We're in hospitality.
Yeah.
And you can do all the planning and have all the right paperwork and systems in place, but you need the people to deliver that. So.
Yeah, right down from your marketing director to the person that's putting the plate on the table with a smile on their face versus just chucking it down and not caring,
Yeah.
And that's what about creating a culture, really, rather than giving them, micromanaging them. So how do you manage the culture at Mahir's now?
It's still very much a family business feel. We operate kind of more like an open door policy. It's kind of flat hierarchy. It's not too kind of, structured in terms of kind of this person reports to that person.
Yeah, because in your office, everyone sort of sits in together, don't they?
Yeah. We have shared offices, but we have separate rooms if somebody wants a bit of quiet time, if they need to do a Teams or Zoom call, or if they just want a kind of a break, Obviously, with the advent of all these working at home tools like Zoom and Teams, if people want to work remotely, they can do that as well. In terms of we harvest a culture that obviously, we're all prepared to work in different areas of the business, and just keep things very customer centric, very customer focused. Doors always open, very kind of casual, and not too kind of, rigid, to be said.
How do you make sure if you're bringing someone in for a big event and they're only maybe going to work with you for that event?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that they are, a Mahir's person and they behave in the way that you want them to?
So we would draft them in beforehand, get them in to have a meeting with them. We obviously will run through the spec, drum down how important this client is, why we need to do it in a particular way. And sometimes I use the analogy, some of these guys are obviously in the kitchens or up front. They're very experienced in their own rights. They could be, top chefs for big establishments and restaurants, or they've done some of the biggest events. We used to get this whole thing about, look, you don't need to really, tell me this. I've been doing this for so long. I know what I'm doing. So then I use the analogy to say, look, you could be, again, going back to football, you could be Mo Salah. And you could be banging in 30, 40 goals. Or like you got Haaland this year, who scored, I think, nearly 50 odd goals.
Yeah, crazy.
But the thing is, he knows how to do his job. But a manager still has to give a pep talk, a team talk. So we just use the analogy to say, look, you might
and
be...
you can still get better, right?
100%, But we prep, our people beforehand, before they go into an event. No event is ever the same. We have specification sheets and stuff. So it's running through the event, make sure they get it, make sure there's so many ways you can deliver food and deliver service. We want to make sure it's done the way that...
So you talk to them, but you also have, I remember reading a book called The Checklist Manifesto, which speaks about if you want something done in a consistent way, you need to have a written checklist. And then you're speaking to them, which, do you remember at Tony Robbins at Business Mastery in the mornings, and if you'd go in early and everyone would run to get the best seat, the team, you'd hear them in the background screaming and screaming together, chanting. And they were all stood around together the lead manager was speaking to them and they were all getting on the same level of energy.
Yeah.
What do we expect today? Working together as a team. Do you think any of that experience with your Tony Robbins stuff rubbed off on the way that you lead your team now?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think engaging with our people, bribing them with our food, and obviously, explaining, how important the event is, what we need to do, but ultimately, do it with a smile on your face, have fun. We're in hospitality, we're delivering a service. We need to get the job done.
It's their joy that you're looking. So it's something bigger than this is just your job and this is your payment. This is this customer's wedding day, or this is this customer's 50th birthday, or this is this big corporate event to celebrate this big achievement.
Yeah.
And you're a key part of that, because food is, they speak about, we're going to get some food after this. Breaking bread together is something that people have been doing since people were people, and socializing, and you're, potentially ruining that experience if the food is not good, because people are just going to talk about the food is not good. If the food is great, the drinks are coming, everyone's having a good time, you're facilitating that whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of know that we're going to nail the food.
Yeah.
It's a service that has to, there's no point having great food and drink if the service isn't great.
Yeah.
So just going back to the people side of things, it is making sure that we, cascade the message that, it needs to be done in a particular way.
Yeah.
But again, be yourself, have fun, introduce yourself. We have got a training suite at Mahir's as well. So before, I
remember that we came and we sat down in there actually.
Yeah.
So people can come and taste food if they're interested in using Mahir's and they actually want to know, okay, well, what would we want for our event?
It's like a pop-up restaurant. And we got the kind of idea from this Jamie Oliver program. I think it's Jamie's 10 or something. So we've got this little restaurant, and we test dishes in there. We do experience tastings in there. But equally, in midweek, the agency that we use for staffing, they're allowed to just come in and use it. They'll get fed, but also they'll learn how to lay tables up. So we do our own little training sessions, and they turn into kind of team building exercises.
Yeah. So in any business, as you bring people on, it's really important to, first of all, have values for your brand that they understand, but then give them the tools to do their job properly, which is checklists and processes, but also practical application and feedback on what they're doing.
Yeah, that's it.
I think that's tons of value on people for sure. Okay, so your routine in the first few years, I'd imagine, was just working, right? A lot of hours.
Yeah.
What changed when you got married, and what changed when you had kids? How did you force yourself, I guess sometimes we have to, have that time away from the business, not being on your phone, thinking about family?
Yeah, so I think you're right. In the first few years, it was just work. And I suppose it was a little bit easier to do that when you were kind of, single or obviously at that point, married, but there's only a couple, but when kids come as well, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, kids is the one, right? That's the time consumption.
It is. So I'm going to be honest with you. I think, again, even when the kids came along, we were so kind of focused on getting the work done. Only when we reflect back now and to say, like, how did that transition happen? I'm ashamed to admit, to be fair, I think the penny dropped on one particular weekend. The girls were pretty young then, but old enough to realize that, daddy just keeps going to work every day, every weekend. And it's only when they were kind of a little bit old enough to question, to say, you started, you're going in again. And they started crying. To say, please don't go.
Yeah.
And then, to be fair, the penny, unfortunately on that day, I still had to go. I was driving in, the penny dropped to say, well, actually, why are we doing this? And, surely there's a better way of doing this, and then I made a conscious decision to try and structure the week, get into a routine, delegate a lot more, bring people on, in my position, in some of the roles that I was doing at that point. And actually it's okay to say no to customer requests, venue requests, and actually just have them diarized and stuff like that, so, And now it's a lot more even, shall we say?
Yeah.
Work-life balance is a lot more even, and I'm enjoying it a lot more as well, So,
and do you think if you have a bit more time away from the business, when you come back fresh with ideas and improvements, and you're more in your zone of genius rather than just doing delivery all the time?
Yeah.
You're thinking about delegating, you're trusting people to do their job, but you're coming back as a leader with ideas on how you can innovate and develop the business.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think every single time I've taken time out of the business, whether it's going on a holiday or, just at home resting up, or, I've gone on a course or something, I've taken, I've read things, or I've just reflected on things, made notes, and you go back in and you have a drive to obviously change things or have conversations or do things that on a day-to-day basis you may have just missed.
Yeah.
So
I think it's such a tough balance, isn't it? Because we do it to provide financial freedom. Okay, now we've achieved financial freedom. We both live in nice houses, in nice areas. The kids go to nice schools. Then it's about generational wealth. Okay, you want your kids to be able to choose what they do for a living. So you then have to, because I lost motivation at one point. And then my mentor said to me, okay, well, you're earning enough for you, but you're kind of being selfish, because wouldn't you like to earn enough money and have enough money invested that your kids literally had a 6-figure salary before they even graduated university? And they don't necessarily know that, because you don't want them turning out being spoiled brats, but they have financial freedom. It's generational wealth. So if they say, Daddy, I really want to play football, but I'm going to have to play non-league football because, I haven't been scouted and this, that, and the other, but I love to play football, and they're getting paid £100 a week. I can say, well, I want you to do what you love. You play football, you train hard, and I'll pay for X, Y, and Z while you do it. And then we can think about what to do after your career's over. That's what I'm trying to do now. But that balance between working all the time to provide that and having time with them, which you'll never get back, it is a difficult one that you constantly have to kind of reflect at the end of each week or end of each month. Have I got the balance right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's family time is really important. Equally so, couple time as well. With your wife, with your partner. Obviously, that relationship and that dynamic. Also me time. Yeah. Having your own time. There was a point that the only. I realized the only me time I ever used to get was when you're in the bathroom, because that's the only place that people don't come and disturb you. Well, to be fair, you still get disturbed
by the kids.
By the kids, yeah.
Daddy, look at this.
I know. But no, I think it's equally important that you've got your own time. Time with obviously your friends.
Which is really important. You've got Liverpool. Yeah. And that serves two purposes, because I love football, you love football, but also something that I neglected for 10 years, probably when I ran my business, maybe 8, well, actually probably 10 years. It was literally only last year that I wrote my goals out and I said, I need to get some friends. And it's sad, isn't it? I literally said to myself, if I'm not working and I'm not with my family, I'm being selfish.
Yeah.
So I would have no friends, basically, apart from I'd go to the gym. I'd talk to my clients. I'd consider you a friend, but we don't socialize, because up to, maybe not even a year ago, if we went and played golf or we went for a meal, we did something, I'd feel guilty that I'm not working or with my family. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%.
But you're totally right. You have to block time each week, maybe if you're thinking about planning your week out. When this week am I spending time with my partner? Because if you have a relationship breakdown, or if you're constantly getting negative feedback, let's just say, put it nicely, from your girlfriend, partner, wife, boyfriend, husband, whatever, that affects your state.
Yeah.
And you're not the same person at work.
Yeah.
And, you probably forget, but you enjoy that time with your wife.
Yeah.
And you enjoy that time with your kids, right?
Yeah, no, I think you value it a lot more when you're at, when it happens, 100%. I think.
Do you plan out, the year? Because what I do now is I have this thing called a preloaded calendar, which I learned from a coaching program I was in. And at the start of the year, I'll look with Kieran and we'll say, right, these are the kids' holidays. So let's book a holiday roughly every 3 months. because we work at GrowFactor and with clients in 90-day sprints, which is similar to, I'm sure, what you do at Mahir, so we could talk about that. So each 90 days, I pick 3 projects for the team and 3 projects for me. We try and get them done in 10 weeks. And then I've got 2 weeks off to sort of deload, kind of like weight training.
Yeah.
And then I try and get a holiday booked in and tie it in with the kids' school. Also, you can't leave things to the last minute now because flights just get more expensive. No. So for this year, we know, okay, we've been to Paris in March. We're going to Portugal in May, June. We're going to Canada in July, August. We'll go to Dubai in October. Like, people can't necessarily afford to do all those things. But if you're listening and you're on a budget, then you can still block the time off and say, I'm going to go, to an Airbnb in the UK or whatever, or just stay at home, but just don't work. Do you preload your year? And then what I do is look at the quarter. Every quarter, Kieran and I will try and go away for an overnight stay. Yeah. Every month, we'll try and do like a day date. Yeah. And each week, I'll just try and, none of this actually happens right now, though. This is the reality.
But you need a plan, right?
It says in my weekly planner, put a little bit of time where we just go to the gym and have a coffee together or go for a walk with the dog or whatever. Do you do it organically or do you plan like me? Because if I don't plan, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it used to be organically, but now we've got everybody knows that on a Wednesday, for instance, that's my day kind of away from the office. It's at home. It's my day off. Yeah. And that's by design. It's the same day off for my wife on the same day because she's a teacher, but she works 4 out of 5 days, so class is part-time. So, and that's a good day for us because obviously the kids go to school. We've got the day and, we'll go out for brunch or, breakfast or lunch and, do the things that, that on a normal day when, the kids are around, whether it's just household tasks or, and going back onto to kind of vacations and holidays, I do leave that up to Rav, my wife. So she plans it, but normally it's very similar. It's in the holidays.
Because if you've got kids and they're in school, you have to look at school holidays, right? And do you go away as a couple without the kids? Have you ever been away?
We managed to do that, a couple of times last year, nice. and that felt really, 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 really good. To be fair, it was probably a bit strange because we hadn't gone away without the kids for a long time. So the first time, but
it's like, what do you do with all this time?
Yeah, I know. So we just ended up, food, drink, and
relaxing.
Yeah, a lot more drink than we would normally have than when the kids are around.
Yeah, we found that actually as well. The first one we took, and it was more of a beach holiday, and we're like, well, there's nothing really to do then. Just sit, drink cocktails, and
that's it. Read and relax and stuff. So. I think it's important to get away. We were fortunate enough to have 2 or 3 trips, last year. But I'm always kind of saying, look, just book it in. If it's not booked in, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, so you do preload it, but
preload it.
But trust that your wife's going to do it. What are you doing at the moment? Actually, before we go there, is there anything that you want to share that's been difficult in terms of a struggle, a personal struggle? Have you had stress, not being able to sleep? I mean, I suffer with anxiety, so I have to meditate and do these other things. Has there been anything on a personal level that's made it difficult that you've had to overcome to achieve success in business?
Personally, at the moment, I think I do find it difficult to sleep at the moment. Yeah. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm actually, from a medical point of view, I've just had some kind of tests done, some scans done. I think it's to do with probably a trapped nerve or something like that, but I'm finding it very painful. Could be sciatica, back of my leg, lower back. But yeah, I mean, that's been kind of a current issue. From a business perspective, the biggest struggle I think we've faced in business, it's probably no kind of shock, but the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, that was an absolute kind of
And you're an events business, really. And there's no events for a good long period of time, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of sectors were affected, right? So, I'm not going to kind of make it out like hospitality was the only sector, but, the events and hospitality sector was hit really big time. And we went into 2020 with a really good order book. We had probably record deposits were in. Business on the books was really, really high. We invested in recruiting staff, redone the premises, machinery. So we were really geared up.
Based on your financial forecast, which, no one knew that this was going to happen, right?
No. So obviously, we're fortunate that we know pretty early on what the year's going to look like because, the events are pre-booked in and the contracts are signed. And obviously, if we don't invest in the business, we wouldn't be able to then service that work. So you have to make sure that you recruit well, you've got your equipment lined up, your premises, so you're basically fit for purpose for that year.
Yeah.
And then just as when the traditional kind of wedding season starts, which is around about March, April time, it's exactly when the pandemic hit us. And then almost overnight, we started going into reverse because rightly so, a lot of the customers started ringing up and they wanted the deposits back.
Yeah.
Luckily, we hold customer deposits, separately in a separate account.
Yeah.
Always been taught to say, look, until we do the job.
Yeah, only recognize income and cash as your own once you've earned it.
Yeah. But obviously there was overheads during the kind of off-peak season. And there was obviously, equipment that was being purchased and hirings that had been made. But yeah, it was a real tough time. It was a real tough time to try and manage that. I think, the support from the government was very slow.
Yeah.
The support from banks was even slower.
Yeah.
Customers were panicking, right? Understandably, nobody knew what was going on.
And what did you do to innovate? Because actually one of your newer revenue streams came off the back of this situation, right?
Yeah. So what we did was we went back to basics. We quickly recognized that obviously, yes, we're a catering company, but ultimately we're a manufacturer.
Yeah.
We manufacture food.
Yeah.
So we started looking at, where else we could, what we could do in terms of manufacturing food and who we could supply to. So we started tendering for contracts.
Yeah.
And, when everything came back online again, we managed to land the Commonwealth Games contract, the Commonwealth Games Birmingham contract.
Wow. So you put things, so rather than just sitting and saying, why me?
Yeah.
This is difficult. What the F am I going to do? I'm just going to give up, make excuses, do nothing. You basically, you did two things actually, because you've done this, which presumably is putting in place the relationships, the framework, the tendering process, the back end, because you'll have to adhere to all these different standards and tick all these different boxes to be able to win a contract like that.
Yeah.
So you started working on that during that time so that when things do open up, you can go and you can win those things, right?
Yep.
And let's talk a bit more about the contracts that you've got. But you also started, because I ordered it at that time, delivering to consumer as well.
Yeah.
Delivering to normal people who are having maybe slightly larger family gatherings and things of that nature under a different brand.
Yeah. So we started doing, obviously we've always been a B2C business.
Yeah.
But more kind of on a large manufacturing basis. So when you do an event for 500, 600 people, the kitchens and the processes are kind of geared up for that.
Yeah.
The pandemic made us think of other things where we're doing B2C work in smaller kind of pack sizes and hamper sizes.
Yeah.
But it became apparent that you need quite a lot of, economies of scale, that you need quite a lot of those orders to warrant the commercial premises to be open, for the tandoori ovens to be on, the kitchens to be staffed well. And I think it was great because obviously we needed to test that we could do smaller pack sizes and hampers, and we still do that.
Yeah.
But it had its own costs, packaging, delivery costs.
So would you say it was an experiment that you're not really trying to grow right now because of the margins and the setup of your facility, you may come back to it in the future? Or is it something that you're still offering, you've worked those things out and you're happy to grow that side of the business?
We have got a plan to grow that side of the business.
Yeah.
I think it's...
And this is simply Mahir's, right?
Yeah, simply Mahir. So, very quickly, it's a concept where we make the same food that we provide for weddings and events. We cook it, we chill it, blast chill it, seal it, and obviously...
And it's so easy. Like if you're, I don't know what your radius is for delivery, but if you're anywhere in the Midlands and you want the best ever Indian food and you're having an event, Google Simply Mahir's and try it. We always get it. You stick it in the oven, you follow the instructions, which are bespoke and given to you for what you've basically ordered. You plate it all up, and then my wife usually tries to lie that she cooked it for the first 10 minutes and no one believes her because it's so good. And then for us, the benefit is obviously the quality of the cooking, but it's the variety. You could never cook like 15, 20 different things.
Yeah.
Put out for people. You create your own events, basically.
That's the whole idea. You could, it is supposed to be like home style cooked food without all the...
Yeah. Like we want to do mastermind dinners. You can't see the rest of this, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chairs.
Yeah.
So my idea was to have 8 CEOs.
Yeah.
And do a once a quarter mastermind dinner.
Yeah.
And then have Mahir's cater that. That's like an example of how you would use it, right?
Yeah.
And you can even have someone then warming and serving as well, depending on what.
And that's what we've done now. I think we've got it structured where so you can order the food, but modularly you can add if you need service staff, if you need a maitre d', if you need the crockery and cutlery, for instance.
Yeah.
You can kind of build your own kind of experience.
Yeah.
Whereas before we were kind of geared up just to do kind of large scale events at kind of remote venues or.
It gives you a bit more flexibility. And also if something happened in the future where the events got shut down, you can turn that on and still generate income.
Yeah, and I think that was the whole point, is to say, well, actually, we've got this big facility, kitchens, there's the experienced staff, the recipes. What else can we do with it as opposed to just doing private, celebratory? Yeah.
So that would be a good bit of advice for any business owner is don't just have one income stream. Try and do risk management, which just means think about what could happen. Do a worst case scenario and think about generating an additional revenue stream once you've been in business for a while, obviously.
Yeah.
That de-risks your business, or take capital out of your business and invest it in other income generating assets.
Yeah.
So that okay, well, if something did happen to my business, my rent is paid, my mortgage is paid, my kids still go to school, all these other things.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think stress the business out to see kind of what would happen in kind of what if scenarios.
Yeah.
And I think the pandemic did definitely, for a lot of people, made us think about kind of, if it did kind of close one day, how would we then, service our life?
Transition to still make income.
Yeah.
And what other contracts have come off the back of you going for things like the Commonwealth Games?
We actually got awarded the best supply partner for the games.
Wow.
And some of the other people who are supplying heard about the success of not just the food itself, but the way it was packaged, delivered, regen, service levels that we provided. And we've now kind of partnered up with a number of other catering companies.
Okay.
Also universities.
Yeah.
We're talking to football clubs, other hotels, where we're actually supplying them directly with food, which they can then obviously add to their menus, or they can obviously do the events themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a fully kind of turnkey solution where we've got, they can either do it kind of white label or they can do it co-branded.
Yeah.
We could be a manufacturer for them.
So those are partnerships in effect, which is another great example of how you can grow a business. You don't have to sell directly to your customer. You can find who else is selling to your customer, already has a relationship.
Yeah.
But you have something complementary, like maybe I'm selling accounting and I can provide accounting to someone who has a tax business that just does tax planning. It's really good. Partnerships are so powerful, I think, in everything. Because they've already developed relationships over 10, 20, 30 or more years that you can tap into.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think partnerships are especially in the competitive climate that we're in now, I think partnering up and co-promoting products. I think you see it everywhere, don't you? Any petrol station you go to, it's either it's a petrol station with Esso, but then the shop is Marks and Spencer's, or it's Costa, or it's an Asda or something. I think, or you got a Subway in there or something like that. So I think, it's happening in retail. But yeah, I think partnerships and just kind of sweating assets and leveraging off, the infrastructure that's already there.
Yeah.
And finding another way of working together is beneficial for both parties.
So what are your goals for the next few years for Mahirs? Because you've taken it from Quality Sweet Centre, which is just a small retail shop, to one of the UK's leading catering companies. You've got 3 revenue streams, right? You've got delivery to home for small events. You've got big, large scale events, which is always your bread and butter. You've got corporate contracts. You've got 4 actually. Now you've got providing food manufactured to another catering company that they can provide through their service. Do you have any other revenue streams, and what are your goals moving forward?
So I think you've covered most of the revenue streams there. We're still doing the outside catering events. There is obviously the online retailing. I think that's going to be massive in terms of consumers. The whole Simply Mahirs, trying to put it online and making it very easy to deliver that way. We've got the wholesale and food service sector, and that's working with venues, sporting stadia, other catering companies. We're looking at obviously training and setting up our own academy.
Okay,
naturally, there will be another revenue stream created with that because there is funding options for that. But more importantly, we're finding it very difficult at the moment. I think a lot of business in hospitality are in getting staff, getting the right staff. With us, obviously, coming out of Europe, so to speak, with Brexit, we don't really have access to that labour pool. And with the whole kind of visa and points-based system, trying to get people from outside, well, anywhere in the world now, with all the immigration policies, is very difficult. So I think the government made no secret of it. I think it is like, you have to kind of have training programs or train your own.
So that'll be win-win because you can offer it out for other people to come in and learn your methodology and how you've won these awards in terms of delivery, but also you can train your own people.
100%. And obviously, we've already spoken to some of the venues and some of our partners, and they already expressed an interest to say, if Mahirs opens up an academy, train staff, no doubt you'll have kind of, more staff than you would probably be able to take on yourself. So they'd be interested in obviously, either sending their guys to be upskilled or taking some of that staff on. So, we've spoken to other restaurants, other catering companies, and, it's not just in cookery, it's not just in culinary, because there will be operations, there'll be warehouse, there'll be sales, administration, marketing. So you have the whole breadth of it. So,
and how do you make sure that you're not spreading yourself too thin? A lot of business coaches, advisors, entrepreneurs, they say, well, just focus on one thing, one revenue stream, hammer that down till you're doing 10 million in sales or whatever it might be. How do you make sure that you're not concentrating on 5 things, that becomes 8 things, that becomes 15 things, and you're not spending enough time on each one to move it forward? Or can you do that, but you're putting someone in charge of that business unit?
Exactly that. It's bringing on partners on board.
Okay.
So when we're setting up the training academy, for instance, it's part, Mahirs will be part of a consortium.
Okay.
And bringing those people on board. Some of these guys are kind of university, working in universities, or they've, been heads of colleges, for instance. So it's, having the right people on board in each aspect. So, it's the same in the food service and the wholesale. It's people who have been in that industry, possibly giving them a share in giving the reward
and
as well.
Putting a team in place that it will run without you, but you can come in and check the relevant metrics and make sure it's moving in the right direction.
Definitely.
Have the board meetings and all of these things. What's, when you sit down, I'm going to go through some questions because I still really want to ask the rest of
Oh,
these.
go for it.
We'll be here for 3 hours if we do a full answer on all of them. So we'll try and do them short and sharp.
Yeah.
What's your process right now for planning out your goals for the year? How do you establish what's important? Do you have a formalized process? Do you write anything down? What does that look like?
So, yeah, I'm continually writing things down on notes on my phone. Tends to be kind of to-do lists. Some of them are kind of obviously long-term goals, things that we're looking at achieving and when we need to achieve them by.
Yeah.
I think some of them are just short-term, kind of what we need to focus on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But they're just lists on your phone right now. It's not in a structured business planning system or anything like that.
Unfortunately, no, not at the moment, no.
Yeah, I don't think there's it's better one way or the other. It's whatever it's obviously working for you. So it shows people who are listening, you don't necessarily need to put it into a business plan. You can have a long-term goals, medium-term goals, short-term goals note on your phone or a physical notepad, right? I know lots of people that do that. As a CEO, I just recently read this book called Rocket Fuel. I spoke about this last week on a podcast as well, but it's been so instrumental to me understanding that I needed to go back to being what they call a visionary, which is coming up for me. Visionary is basically you understand what your zone of genius is and you stay there. So for me, it's creating content, meeting people, coming up with new ideas, setting the business plan and vision, but I don't like completing the project. I don't like doing the client work. There's loads of things I don't like doing, but understanding what you don't like and then making sure that you've got what's called an integrator, which is like your COO, the person that runs the business on the day to day, make sure all the wheels are turning, make sure that, if you've got an event coming in, it's 500 people, the staff are there. This is ready. Have you been through that process in your own business? Have you got an integrator? Have you got a day-to-day person that you rely on that just does everything for you?
Yeah, I think.
And if not, do you think you'll need that in the future? But what does your team look like right now?
Interestingly, I think I've got somebody. Well, I've got a good team in place now. We restructured kind of the back end of last year.
Yeah,
and made a conscious decision to actually have a team, have people to fulfill them roles. So if you had asked me that probably about kind of a year ago, the answer would be no. But I can confidently say at this moment in time, we've got people who are doing the kind of day to day.
Yeah.
I think personally, I'm seeing the benefit of that, and the company's seeing the benefit of that because it wouldn't allow me. Well, it allows me now to concentrate on other aspects of the business of the other streams that we've been talking about. Whether it's the food service, the wholesale. The hamper packs, etc. So
you can't scale unless you bring those people on. You let them know what they're doing. You give them regular reviews and set their own goals and give them ownership and accountability of certain areas of the business.
100% agree with you.
Right. Set key performance indicators for them so they know we only did this recently. So the team, they know what their goals are, numerical goals. What are they being tested on? Like our accountants, they're tested on net promoter score.
Yeah.
As in, what are our clients giving us as a ranking out of 10? Would they recommend us to other people? Client retention.
Yeah.
And also the value of the fees that they're managing. Have they grown that? Have they identified opportunities to deliver additional work for existing clients, for example?
Okay.
And so they clearly know, these are 3 of however many of my KPIs. And then we say to them, well, in order to build a KPI, you need a KRA, a key result activity.
Okay.
And that means, so for example, if you wanted to increase your net promoter score because it was 8.5 and our target is 9, how are you going to make your clients happier?
Yeah.
Well, touch base with them regularly.
Yeah.
Get the net promoter score feedback and then make changes as a result of it. Like identify different things you can do each week to improve what you're delivering to clients. So I think that's so important for teams to know what their goals are, but how can they continually improve? Do you do any of that with your senior team?
I think that's kind of the next part of the evolution, is to have those kind of systems in place, those check-ins. I think, regular reviews. Yeah, that's happening.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of actually focusing on those particular key KPIs.
Like KPIs and KRAs. Yeah. And we just have a Google sheet. It's so simple. And you make sure it's only 3 to 5 per person.
Yeah.
They agree with them.
Yeah.
And you sit down together to work out, to move that KPI, what KRA do you need?
Okay.
Game changer. Yeah, it's really,
I'd
really
be interested
good.
to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. And I'd recommend that book as well. It's really cool. You know, with events businesses, they are incredibly complex from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
You're a bit different because most GrowFactor clients, we don't let them do their own bookkeeping. We're like, we have to do it. But we know with an events business, you need to have an internal accountant, which you have, dealing with the day-to-day, because there's so many moving transactions on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And we have to build a good relationship with them so we can support them. Where do I book this? I'm not sure how to do this journal. Have I done this right? And then we're checking their work as well. So you know that QuickBooks is up to date, right?
Yeah.
But how important is it in your business, especially with the fact you've got upfront costs, you've got bookings, you've got a team in place, you've got fixed reviews, to have accurate, up-to-date financials and understand your cash flow? Like, how important is that for you?
Really, really important. Obviously, massive focus on the numbers, obviously forecasting, because ultimately, if we're just looking at booking deposits in, we're actually other people's money coming into the business. We want to make sure it's, put in the right, areas, making sure that obviously we can track it and draw down on it when at the time of their event, because some people are booking lastminute.com, other people are booking for 2025, in 2023. So
do you create a budget for each individual major project? So okay, customer deposit's 50K, total cost is 100K. I mean, these numbers are probably wrong. Of the 100K, our budget is, 67K for costs, which is broken down this way: staff, venue.
Yeah, so we've started to use certain features of the software. So sort of tagging, transactions. And I think when it comes to cost of sales, it can be pretty straightforward. But sometimes you could have 6 or 7 events in the same week.
Yeah.
The orders that you put through, they're all clumped together. So it's kind of working out.
But originally, I mean, when you book an order and you bring a customer in and you send them a quote or a proposal, do you have an idea of, okay, well, I'm charging the customer this because it's going to cost me this, and here's how those costs are broken down between raw materials, people, and all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, the CRM system that we use actually has got features where obviously we know what those services are costing us and what we're selling them for.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, it'll give us the metrics to understand on a event by event, on an order by order, what the margins are.
Yeah, I think that's so important. You get a lot of, especially high-end restaurants and with caterers, that they just have no idea what their margins are. And also they have no idea what the goal margin is, and also what maybe other restaurants are achieving or other catering companies.
Yeah, I can clearly tell you that at the beginning.
You don't have to say what the margins are.
They could always be better, shall we say. But
and in a high-end business that is always pitching itself at a high value, your margins will always be lower because you're spending so much on the right quality of materials.
Well, especially at the moment with inflation and the credit crunch. I mean, food prices have actually gone out the window, and that's one of the issues, because we're locking down events, for instance, late this year or next year in 2025,
and the food price might go up.
Yeah,
how do you hedge again? You can't hedge on a food price or give a client a variable.
It's not just food prices. I mean, obviously, labour costs. With wages going up, and
could you send a proposal to a client and say, well, it's 50K based on the labour cost and food unit cost of this? If the percentage of that cost goes up, you couldn't do that, right?
You could try to do it, but obviously it's going to come out in the wash in the negotiations. People want to fix it. If they're fixing, they're fixing.
So they know what they're paying because they're paying the deposits now, right?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of try and think about financially modelling what might happen based on what's happened in the past and factor that into your price now, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think you just have to look at, if you were going to give any incentive or a discount, you probably wouldn't do that on the basis of the fact that most likely, what you secure the deal at today won't be, the cost won't be the same as when it comes to delivering it. I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been working together for a while now. Like we said, you do have an internal accountant, but how's the experience been with GrowFactor? Like, what value do we add to your business? And would you recommend us to other businesses in your industry or in similar industries?
I think one of the reasons why what's helped me kind of aided my growth in knowing my numbers and stuff is by working with GrowFactor. The fact that we've got a system which allows you guys to review and look into remotely. We've got our own kind of account manager who's very responsive, who, you can book a slot in and ask questions to, just on the other end of the line. But going back to the system itself, I think having a play with the numbers, looking at what if scenarios, I think I know more about numbers. I think traditionally we weren't encouraged to look at numbers. It was always like, don't worry, give us all that information and the books would kind of be done.
Yeah, the accountants would just operate as a separate thing and wouldn't really involve you in the process.
No, but the thing is, the fact that you guys involve us in the process, we understand. And a lot of it is then the next time we have a particular invoice to put on, we know exactly where we need to put it and how we need to put it in.
And that gives you accurate numbers, right, that are up to date all the time. What does accurate numbers that are up to date all the time allow you to do? Like, why do you need that?
Make decisions, right? So obviously we know, so if everything's up to date, we know what our current margins are.
How much cash you've got to invest.
Yeah, exactly. If we want to hire, if we want to purchase a piece of equipment, is it best to actually, use the money that we've got in the bank, or should we take on asset financing? It allows you to kind of make decisions, very quickly. And to be fair, a lot of the opportunities that come our way, maybe generally in business, probably needs fast action. So if your numbers are up to date,
you can make a decision. But then also, I guess because you get unlimited support, you don't have to make it on your own. You can call up your account manager. And have that conversation with them as someone outside of the business that understands your business but isn't biased because they're a third party.
I mean, I think recently we made some asset purchases and took advantage of the super deduction tax. So I was speaking to Anish quite a lot about that, and he helped with that. And then obviously I think recently we purchased a car through. Well, to be fair, we made 4 purchases of vehicles.
And that's like tax planning, having conversations around tax, which we've done. And then obviously you and Anish have done. You've bought the same, you turned up in the same car as me. I'm really annoyed about it because it's a Tesla Model Y, which we'll do on another podcast on why it's so tax efficient. But you've got an amazing matte finish PPF look, which parked next to mine it does look better. It looks really great. But tax planning conversations have been important as well. And we spoke in the kitchen with Kira, my wife, about the houses that we live in and little things like that, just helping with mortgage applications and making sure your finances are structured in the right way to get your dream house. Things like that for me, and me personally helping with that, it was so rewarding because that's probably one of the biggest things in someone's life, being able to actually get a yes on a house that they'd love to move into.
I think so. I think, going back to kind of how things were, and how they are now, I think it's a bit cliche, but a happy home is essential as a bedrock for, I think, working and succeeding in business. Because if you've got everything structured at home in terms of, I'm not very materialistic, I'll be completely honest with you, but if the family's set, they're happy, kids are happy.
They're safe, they've got food, they're warm.
Exactly. And I think it just, not only does it give you a warm feeling, but obviously gives purpose and meaningful as to why we're doing what we're doing each day. Why we're getting up. And, I'm very proud. I'll go to an event. If I need to clear a table, clear plates up, I will do it because I know why I'm doing it and who I'm doing it for.
There's pride there, but not the wrong kind of pride.
There's no egotistic, not saying, look, this is not, I shouldn't be doing this at this kind of, I'll happily, we're in the service and hospitality business, and, we'll carry on.
You should genuinely want to serve that person. Okay. Just to kind of bring things together, and we can talk about anything that I maybe missed that you wanted to speak about. What are your 3 keys to success? And it might be just reinforcing what we've already spoken about that you could share with others that are looking to be successful and fulfill their potential. I mean, we spoke about definitely that you've brought on the right people to sit in the right seats. We spoke about generating additional revenue streams and thinking outside the box and being really determined and not giving up, not ever giving up. And we spoke about developing your own skills outside of a university degree or what you go into business with, continually trying to develop your knowledge. Are those the 3 keys that you'd like to mention, or do you have any more?
No, those are. I think when it comes to recruitment, I'm a firm believer, and it is a bit of a Tony Robbins thing as well, but I've actually felt it, breathed it, lived it. I've always recruited with more emphasis on will, over skill.
Yeah.
We've in life and in business, we've experienced kind of, recruiting people with skill.
Yeah.
But unfortunately in the business, they've been a bit lazy.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas obviously we've had people who, I wouldn't say they're not unskilled. They just say, let's say they're raw.
Yeah.
They'll come into the business with a lot of will.
And they're willing to learn and work hard, right?
Yeah.
Which is a massive difference.
Yeah. I'll tell you all day long that, will trumps, for me, will trumps skill.
Will trumps skill. I've not heard that before. I'll give that to you.
It's a Robbins thing. Is it?
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is. But,
okay.
So I think recruit, more emphasis on will over skill. That's one of my kind of 3 keys to success. Invest in creating exceptional customer experience.
Okay.
Again, might be a bit kind of cliche or
no, it's not.
But we've always, the clues in the name, Mahir's experience. When clients contact us, that customer journey, right from sending people quotes all the way up to fulfilling their big day, their events. It's really crucial that I think we live in a world where everything is available very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to get with chat GP, what it's called. It's
Chat GPT. I just signed up for that. Actually, it's just scary.
It is. I don't think it's going to shape our future, but coming onto it, I think people are just used to having everything very quickly. And I think we've got to be kind of responsive to that. Everything from ordering a Big Mac on your phone. Not that you doesn't look like you do, but
not at the moment.
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
No.
After my diet is over, maybe.
Yeah. So you can get things like on Deliveroo, just get things literally just very, very quickly. You want answers yesterday. So I think delivering really good, exceptional customer experience is really, really key.
Yeah.
Again, might be a bit cliche, but knowing your numbers, just making sure that you got a grip on your finances.
I'm glad you got that one in there. Know your numbers. That's the number one reason that Tony Robbins says businesses fail. The owner does not understand their numbers, doesn't know what dashboards, kind of like driving. My mentor talks about driving a car. He says to his students, he lectures at university, that I've got I think he had an Audi R8 or something at the time. An Audi R8 in the car park. Who wants it? Everyone puts their hand up. He said, but there's one caveat. I'm going to rip the dashboard out before I chuck you the keys. Do you still want it? And they're just looking at him so confused. Could you get home? He says to them. No, we couldn't get home. Why? Because there's no dashboard. Okay, well, why are people running businesses with 0 metrics, no performance dashboard, nothing?
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. At some point, you'll crash or you'll run out of fuel, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good analogy, and something that I've used when I'm speaking to, my partners and significant others in the business. I think we're all guilty of coming into, some of us were guilty of coming into the business without having a dashboard.
Yeah.
And it was something that, I wanted to change in our business, to say that we've got all the metrics.
Yeah.
Because in order for us to run a successful business or run any business, is to know where you're heading, what speed you're heading at. Like you said, are we going to run out of fuel?
Yeah.
But you can make decisions with metrics and a dashboard.
Yeah, 100%. Data is everything. I've got a Whoop on, which tracks now heart rate variability, the gap between the heart rates, heart rate, sleep, stages of sleep, stress. And it tells me today, okay, your metrics are going in this direction because I've been training and I'm in a calorie deficit right now. And then I can make a key decision. Okay, tomorrow I need to back off a little bit and maybe I need to speak to my coach about putting a little bit more food in, because the percentage recovery has gone from 90 to 80 to 70. Today I'm on 34. Yeah, it's a miracle that I'm sitting up podcasting. But if I didn't have that data, One, I wouldn't have like a frame. I might think, oh, I'm just being lazy.
Yeah.
I don't feel that great, but I'm just being lazy. It gives you, and sometimes you might feel a bit tired, but your Whoop says you're on 95%. So you know you are just being a bit late. So it gives you that reality check that you need.
I think, like I said, that kind of information is key. You can make a conscious decision of what direction you want to take.
To adjust. Yeah. And data, like, for example, I mean, this is not a podcast about Whoop, but I track my sleep and then it has a journal, and you can do this the same in business. You track whether your cash is going up, for example.
Yeah.
And same with your sleep performance, and you change certain things.
Yeah.
So like I started taking CBD oil. Okay, that improved.
Oh, wow.
I started
the proper way, yeah?
What's that?
You took it the proper way. Yeah.
The proper way, yeah, with the drops, yeah. THC free. So anyway, yeah, if you track the right metrics in your business, you have the right dashboard, you can make strategic changes and then remeasure at certain increments. And all you're doing is optimizing and growing, optimizing and growing, optimizing and growing.
Right.
Okay, lastly, I talk about a business doing three things. Well, one is it should give you freedom. We've spoken about your routines and the fact that you've got more freedom now. Having an impact, we've definitely spoken about that, because I think Mahir's just literally, I've been to events where I've sat down and I didn't know Mahir's was catering it.
Yeah.
And it comes up and I'm like, I'm so happy now. I'm sat down because I don't really drink now.
Yeah.
And if the food's good, I'm going to get so much pleasure from that. So that to me is the impact that you're having. And on a large scale, if you're talking about the games, you know, you're impacting so many people. So creates freedom, lets you have a lasting impact, which will do, and then you make money, right? And it's very Mahir's has been very financially successful and it's grown year on year. But in order to do that, a business has to attract clients. I'm always thinking in triangles, convert clients and then deliver to clients. We've spoken a lot about delivery and how you do a good job. How do you attract new clients? Just really briefly for people, just as a tip, as a good way, if they've got a business, whether it's a restaurant or a catering company or in this industry, how do you attract new clients? Is it all referrals and word of mouth? And do you encourage that? Is there some focus on social media?
So it's always really been organic for us. It's always been referrals.
Yeah.
People going to events, experiencing the food for themselves. It's all that kind of, so who did the food here today? And recently I've been surprised where a client came in for a food tasting.
Yeah. And
she had the proposal and her her family came in and she disclosed to us after, again, she signed everything up, absolutely happy with everything, signed the contract and booked us basically. She then went into a handbag and pulled out a menu card from an event.
Yeah.
And this was an event that she went to, no word of a lie, I think 15 years ago.
Wow.
And she said that.
So she put it on her dream list.
She put it on her dream list. So this was the bride's mother. And she goes, I always wanted to book you guys ever since this event.
Yeah.
Where I tried your food for the first time.
That's incredible.
And that was so really, cool. Really heartwarming.
That's so cool.
So, organic, word of mouth. I think there's only so many kind of events and that we can do each year on a weekend, each day. And at the moment, the organic and referral business marketing way is working for us.
Yeah, and I think that's great. Lots of times there's another mentor of mine who grew his accountancy firm from $3 million to $20 million in 3 years, just said to me, listen, I'm not going to do an Australian accent, but he's Australian. You just need to focus on your customers. Yeah. You don't even need to ask them for referrals. If you're not getting referrals from your clients, you're not doing a good job. Right? You need to understand if they're not recommending you to people on a regular basis, there's something wrong with your delivery. So if you then think, well, I'm not getting any new clients, let me set up an ad funnel, let me go crazy on Instagram, let me do this, let me do that. You're going to start then losing clients.
Yeah.
You get no repeat business. I know it sounds super simple, but to me, it was a bit of an eye opener at that time. Just really focus on your existing clients 80% of the time and 20% of the time. Look at setting up those new client awareness kind of campaigns.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think if you smash the current client that you've got at the moment out the park in terms of delivery and their experience, I think the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, 100%. I love that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say anything else on that. I love that. The rest takes care of itself. In terms of conversion, once you get the proposals through and come in, do you still do all of that yourself, or do you have a team that will speak to a potential client and walk them through the options and deliver the proposal?
No, we've got a team. So obviously, people contact us. We've got a structured process in where we will have a consultation with them.
You have a CRM system where you track
and then
their
we'll
data.
We'll put proposals together. Get something over to them in an initial kind of proposal, a bespoke, tailored proposal. Then also there's a call to action on there, whether they want to come in to do a tasting, whether they want to set up a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or a call to discuss their event. So we allow them to obviously tailor it. And then we'll check in and follow up with that. When they do come in for their kind of tasting experiences, there'll be times when I'm around and I'll table hop from table to table. Sometimes I'll break bread with them. We've got this kind of experience sensory room where we've got not only the food being served, but the table settings as such. It's like a pop-up restaurant style. We've got a projector on, we've got music on. So and we use that opportunity to obviously showcase what we're about, what we do, but also just to listen to them and get their vision for their event and bespoke it to exactly what they want. And it's always about being customer centric and giving them what they want. We're in hospitality at the end of the day.
And I guess that's the big thing in any business. One of the things you should be doing is also auditioning and identifying if you want that client and can you deliver what they want? Do they have realistic expectations versus what you can do? And not taking on every single client that comes through the door. If they've got, it may not be relevant for your example, but for us, it definitely is. If they've either got unrealistic expectations or genuinely what they're asking for, you can't deliver.
Yeah, I think every business to a certain extent, we need to qualify, if you want to use the word qualify, every client because and manage their expectations.
In the nicest possible way.
In the nicest possible way. Because obviously, we want to manage their expectations. And we do that. We try to do that pretty early on. And that normally happens when they make that first phone call, have a discussion. And when you send a proposal over, you've got, a list of all the, services that will be required from us. And then you've got the pricing on there. And you talk through their event and you quickly establish whether, from a budget point of view or from a services point of view, we fit. It could be that we don't offer the cuisine that they're looking for. Or it could
so
be,
there's a quick, and that's really important as well. Leads identified, then there's a quick qualification process before you then move them on to the next stage, which is investing your time in bringing them in and building a relationship. You have to qualify whether they've got the funds, they're happy with the level of investment potential and what their expectations are you can meet.
Really, really important because obviously some customers might not know that process. And I think most people would say, can we come in and try the food?
And they just want to come straight in.
But obviously we tell them early on that, look, more than happy to do the food. You can come in and try it, as many times as you want. But what we need to do is just establish kind of, the event itself, the timings of it, so we can cost it all correctly and see if we're going to be, a fit for yourselves.
Which is right on both sides. Is there anything that we didn't speak about that you wanted to talk about?
I think we covered most.
We talked about a lot. And there's definitely some areas that we could do a whole podcast on. I definitely want to get you back in the future to dig into certain areas. If people want that operationally, some of the real specifics about how you run your business and what's different about that, because I think there's so much knowledge that you've got.
Sure.
That could be passed on.
No, I'm more than happy to come back in and to delve in a bit deeper on any area that you think that we
I've loved having you on.
Thank you.
Where can people find you if they wanted more information or they have events coming up, or maybe there are even corporate directors here who are looking for, events in the future, big events in the future?
Find me in L4 in Anfield most of the time. But no. So obviously we're based in West Bromwich.
You're on Instagram, right?
I'm on Instagram,
Mahir's experience.
Instagram, LinkedIn, obviously on all the major search engines. That's where we are. That's where we can find us.
Awesome. Well, Harvir, thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of Founder Stories. As always, tons of practical advice and steps you can take back to your business. But for me, it was so inspirational to hear the story of a business that's gone from a small retail operation to a nationwide company that creates experiences, impacts people, has created freedom for Harvir and his family, and makes some money along the way. We'll see you in the next episode.